All right. Hey everybody, this is Jordan Machado, aspiring biologist and hopefully a future herpetologist. And even though this is not a hognose, we do also work with king snakes. So we wanted to talk about what taking care of a king snake looks like and what you should do when you're first bringing a baby king snake home. So hey, let's get into it. All right, so this is Mama D, and that is short for Mama Darkness because she is almost a perfect specimen of a Mexican black king snake. Now, you may have noticed I didn't specify what type of king snake in the intro, and that is because most king snakes are pretty much identical in care. Now, mainly, I'm gonna kind of create a little group here because there are niche king snakes that do require a little more care, but mainly this is going to apply to California king snakes, Mexican black king snakes, and I guess it also technically applies a little bit to milk snakes, but take that with a grain of salt. Milk snakes are a subspecies of king snake, so they're kind of related care-wise, like enclosure size and all of that stuff, feeding. However, their temperaments are a lot more different, especially as babies. Now, I would say that if your biggest concern about getting your first snake, if you're still trying to decide on what to get, if your biggest concern is it eating, get a king snake. Because they are incredible garbage disposals. It is very easy to overfeed these guys because of how eager they are to eat. They will make you think that they are starving, and I definitely recommend handling them and working with them, especially while they're young, and potentially having a snake hook handy, because it is not uncommon for these guys to just kind of assume that everything is food. And if you have other reptiles, in general, it's always good to sanitize your hands before handling any of your reptiles. However, that is even more important before handling your king snake, because king snakes are actually snake eaters in the wild. And getting them established on rodents is not always the easiest thing. Despite the fact they are incredible eaters, as babies, they can be a little more finicky, and that's what people don't know. However, once they are established eaters and once they have had at least, like I'd say 3 meals even, they pretty much will never reject a meal. And there are a few different other types of king snakes that I didn't mention that also fall into this example, which would be the Brooks king snake and even the Eastern chain king snake. So all of these awesome little dudes will usually be between, and I'd say 3 to 4 feet is pretty average for most king snakes, although there are a few species of king snakes that seem to get like almost to 5 feet, but it's actually pretty uncommon. Care-wise, these guys are actually very, very similar, if not almost identical to taking care of a corn snake. The main difference being these guys do not usually get as long, but diet-wise, care-wise, and size-wise, like girth-wise, you're looking at pretty much similar things. These guys will be eating frozen thawed. Sometimes people offer live, but it's pretty uncommon that they'll ever be picky. Quite frankly, you can just treat them as a garbage disposal if you have a larger collection, because they will pretty much eat anything that you offer them, including your fingers if you're not careful. So definitely, keep your hands ready and a credit card or a debit card or a business card to just slip underneath their little mouths if they get a good latch on there. They're very ambitious little dudes, but they do not start this big or ambitious. This little guy over here is a striped black and white California king snake. Now, usually when you go to expos, or if you're just browsing online on Morph Market, by the way, feel free to check out our Morph Market store down in the description. They are really awesome. You'll usually see a lot of Mexican black king snakes. You'll also see some California king snakes, which are these awesome little guys, but you'll also see some cool Brooks king snakes. There are lots of awesome morphs, and honestly, I would say that the biggest thing California king snakes, and all king snakes really, from the ones that I mentioned earlier, so Brooks, Eastern chain, Cal king, the normal king snakes, not specific niches, they all kind of share that very, very, very ambitious food response. So if you're worried about snake not eating, definitely get a king snake. I said that earlier, and I cannot really nail that in any more than needed. It's just these guys are very good eaters. They're also pretty curious, similar to corn snakes and hognoses. They are a diurnal species. But with given how eager these guys are when it comes to food, you can usually start these guys off straight in a 10-gallon enclosure, and quite frankly, I'm pretty sure that the large majority would also just do okay in their adult setup. Now, given that they do not get as long as corn snakes, some of the shorter ones could maybe do okay in a 20-gallon long. But again, if you can go bigger, if you have the space to go bigger, especially if they're very curious and very active, I would just do something a little bit bigger. At least a 29-gallon. You could just do a 40 breeder, and that would be absolutely incredible. Or you can get those really awesome enclosures that are front opening. And the thing is, these guys are just usually pretty confident. They'll be very curious, and if they're not confident, they will usually just be defensive. Which, again, similar to corn snakes, that's going to be some S-curving, some tail rattling, and some very, very dramatic displays. They don't generally hiss or make a lot of noise, but they will try to eat everything, and their little bites honestly don't hurt. If you ever do get bit, however, just make sure to pull them off. You don't want them to chew on you because it doesn't... They're not the brightest. They just kind of think everything is food, and they're not always going to realize that your finger or your hand is not food. So definitely don't hand feed these guys. Please use feeding tongs or drop feed them. If you're going to drop feed them, make sure to put it on a little dish, a plastic, a lid, a toilet paper roll, something that will prevent the bedding from getting on there. Now, these guys are a lot of fun to have. They are very, very curious, very... honestly incredible little snakes when you work with them. I would just be a little more cautious, I would say, with making sure that you don't smell like reptiles. Because again, they do eat other snakes in the wild. With something this food motivated, I don't feel as comfortable letting it just sit on my glasses because who knows, maybe my eyeball smells tasty to them. Doesn't mean that they're bad snakes. They're just incredible eaters. And with that being said, hi buddy, crazy to think that you're gonna get so big, huh? These guys, you can sometimes find adults. You want to make sure you work with them, get that relationship going, and honestly, they are just really, really awesome little dudes. Look at that. Look at that cute little face. And if you do get a very, very shy baby, you can start them out in a 6-quart enclosure, similar to the baby bins that we build for some of our slightly larger baby hognoses or for some baby corn snakes, but make sure you don't leave them in there for too long, because generally as soon as they're confident enough to be moved into a larger enclosure, or if they're eating straight from tongs, I would just move them into that enclosure, just given how honestly confident these little dudes are. Make sure you have at least 2 cave-like hides and as much clutter as you can fit in there. You can be creative. You can use crumpled newspaper. You can use flowers and vines and artificial things from the dollar store. You don't have to use super crazy expensive things. If you actually want some ideas on things that you can use for your enclosure, check out the Amazon affiliate link we have in our description. I have a huge list of snake supplies, usually in our Hognose starter kit, link with a bunch of awesome things you can use for a bunch of other snakes too. And it kind of makes it a little easier, and we do appreciate anytime you buy something through Amazon using our affiliate link, because it does generate a little bit of a commission for us, which helps us kind of upgrade everybody over here and give them lots of awesome fun things to do. Isn't that right, pretty boy? You are such a good little dude. Boop. But hey, you know what? If you want to keep it snakeful, you got a king snake. You can keep it kingful. One more, yeah! Yeah! B, mwah, never kiss your snakes. That's a bad idea. They rub through their poop. P. Look at how tiny she looks when she's like all scrunched up. It's like 3 to 4 feet. That's giant. It's like, but it's like,